Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today, we're going to talk about Star Wars Unlimited. I got to play in a pre-release event last night. I got to play quite a few games. First impressions are going to be coming at you. I'll talk a little bit about the game, how it plays, what I think of it, and really kind of asking the question, is it going to last? This is Fantasy Flight Games' third Star Wars card game attempt. And is it up to snuff? So we're going to talk about that in today's video. Also, just a reminder, if you're new here to the channel, we are still giving away a $25 Amazon gift card. If you want to have a chance to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. We'll be doing that next week. So it'll be announced at the end of one of my videos. So make sure you're subscribed. Leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on Star Wars Unlimited. Have you played it yet? Have you played it on like Tabletop Simulator? Are you pre-ordering, or you have no interest in a card game like this whatsoever? I know a lot of my fan base and my viewers, my subscribers are very divided on things like this. And I can see it being an interesting point of contentions. I actually expect I'm probably going to lose a lot of subscribers by even talking about this game. But we're going to see how it goes. I'm not sure. And I do have a little more Star Wars Unlimited content coming up throughout the week also. So if you're interested in subscribing already, you're in the right place if you want to see more of this. If you can't stand it, don't worry. I am still covering other games. Don't worry. It's not going to be only card games. It's not going to be only Star Wars Unlimited. But since it is a brand new game, there is going to be some unboxings. I did secure another pre-release kit that I will be unboxing for you guys in a future video, plus the 2-player starter and a box of boosters. So we're going to look at a lot. We're going to do some booster pack opening, all kinds of stuff like that throughout next week. And over the next probably 2 weeks, we're going to do a little bit of that sprinkled in amongst other content. With all that being said, let's go ahead and take a closer look at Star Wars Unlimited. I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like, and we'll give you the final verdict. So Star Wars Unlimited is a collectible card game where you're going to craft a 50-card deck, although in the pre-release tournament it was just a 30-card deck. But typically it'll be a 50-card deck, and you're going to also, in addition to those 50 cards, you're going to have one base and one leader that sort of define your the colors that you can use. Bases have colors on them. You're going to have, for example, this is red, and then Luke Skywalker has these two colors, blue and like light side, or blue and white, basically. They each have names associated with them, as it's still new to me. I don't have all the names committed to memory yet, so I'm just going to refer to them as their colors. There are certain other colors as well. There's green that I might play against. My opponent might be using Sabine Wren, and might be going kind of red, white, and green. There's also black for dark side characters like Darth Vader here, and so on and so forth. And different cards are going to have different color symbols. They call these aspects, and you kind of need to have these in your deck if you're going to play them, but you don't have to. It just makes them cost more, 2 points more to play every card for every symbol that you do not have included between your leader and base. At the start of the game, you're going to draw 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you don't like those, you can mulligan. There's a mulligan rule. You can mulligan once, just completely shovel this back in your deck, draw 6 more cards, and then you're stuck with it. There's no additional mulliganing for less cards or anything like that. But there's no lands or mana in your deck. You're going to, every card is mana, because at the start of the game, you'll choose 2 cards and commit those face down. I might choose these 2 and commit those face down. Those are going to be resources. So I'll push this up a little bit. Those will be resources. And then we start the game, and then I can pay 2 resources, basically tap them or exhaust them. And this guy costs 2, and since I have blue, I won't have to pay 2 extra. If I didn't have blue, he would cost 2 more for that symbol. There are some cards that have multiple symbols on them. This one's green and white. Fortunately, I'm sorry, red and white. I have red on my base and white on Luke Skywalker, so I can play the Green Squadron A-Wing. If I didn't have either one of those, this would cost 2, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it would cost a lot more if I didn't have the colors. So you generally want to limit your deck to 2 or 3 colors, which are, will reflect the colors that you have associated here. However, you can still include something outside. If I had this guy perhaps in my deck, he would cost 8 plus 2 more plus 2 more, so he would cost me 12, which is obscenely expensive. However, I could always just decide to take him, flip him upside down, and turn him into a resource if I want to. So another thing about this game is it reminds me of destiny a little bit in that instead of just taking a whole turn, I'm going to play this card, I'm going to play that card, I'm going to do this action, I only do one action at a time. So an action can be a card, tapping a card that has the action word on it, like your commander does, although he's action and pay one to give a shield to somebody that's a light side unit that you played this turn. Or it can be to play a card from your hand, or it can be to attack with a unit. Now there's two sides of units that you can have out. I can pay 2 mana, for example, or two resources. I'm going to keep saying mana to summon an A-Wing. Now an A-Wing will go on either side. We'll put like space over here, and you're gonna have ground on the other side. So one side will be only space, the other side will be only ground, and these two, for the most part, do not intermingle. So think of it as I can attack your base from the air, or I can attack your base from the ground. The goal of the game is to reduce your opponent's base to 0 health. Every time I attack, I'm going to be attacking the A-Wing, for example, has 1 attack and 3 health. So this is power and toughness if you were to equate it to magic. However, he has a special ability when he gets +2/+0 while attacking. So if I attack with this A-Wing, he'll actually do 3 damage, and we'll put damage counters on the enemy base. Although the 2-player starter and the pre-release kit come with these little rinky-dinky damage counters, which you will probably want to upgrade if you end up liking the game. Yes, the Green Squadron A-Wing will then tap, although everything that you play comes into play and then exhausts, so it's going to come into play tapped. It's kind of like their version of Summoning Sickness. There are some keywords that can say, hey, you come into play and you get to immediately untap, and then you can attack right away. And, you know, there's keywords that break a lot of rules. Now, if my opponent happens to have a ship out there, let's just say they had this little distant patroller, they could have them out there. I don't have to attack that ship. I can go straight to the base. They don't have to attack my ship. They can go straight to my base. But if we are in the same arena, I can attack his ship and stop it from hitting me back. That's especially useful if I can kill his ship without dying. Damage is persistent. So my A-Wing, while he has 3 health, if he takes 2 damage on this turn, he's going to have that for the rest of the game unless I heal it, or he takes another one and dies. So damage is persistent. So you'll need lots of damage tokens for longer games. There are keywords that will say you have to attack this character. There's a sentry keyword that says, you know what, actually you're going to have to attack me, but that only applies to the particular realm. There are also ground units, like this Wilderness Fighter right here, and it'll say unit and ground. Now this is one of the things I like about this game. They have done a good job on making the cards easy to read, but having a lot of extra information. It's important that something says unit, for example, because your leader has a once per game ability called an epic action where they can transform and then take the battlefield as a unit. And of course it'll still say leader, unit, and ground. So it's important to pay attention to all these. Let's talk about the anatomy of a card really quick. I'll jump to the A-Wing since we already talked about him. The cost is going to be up here. The aspect symbols can potentially increase the cost, like we already talked about. The name of the card is here. If there's like a diamond symbol here, it will be a unique card, so you can't have more than one. Like named characters like Chewbacca or Luke Skywalker will have that diamond symbol, like you see right there. There's keywords or traits for the vehicle. These are hooks for other cards to reference: rebel, vehicle, and fighter. Any special text is going to be here. Not every card is going to have special text. There are going to be some cards that are just kind of plain and boring, but most cards have at least something. There are neutral cards that have no aspect, like this Underworld Thug that has no special text whatsoever, but you know his specialty is that he can go on any deck with ease because he has no aspects. There's not too many cards that are like this, but there are some. You're also going to have other keywords like unit and space, and that's going to be important just to remind you that this guy goes in space as opposed to the ground. And in most cases, while it might seem obvious for what is a ground or a space unit, in some cases it's a little bit less obvious. There is a snow speeder. I have one of those in my deck here somewhere, which I could see some people mistaking for a space unit because it appears to fly, and there's always been some trepidation on like, hey, could these things go into space? And of course it is a ground unit. So that's settling the debate once and for all, at least as it applies to that particular card. And then of course our damage and how much damage we deal in combat. Damage is dealt at the same time unless otherwise specified. So if I attack him or if he attacks me, we'll both inflict each other's damage to the other one. And then we will, then we'll die if we die, or we'll get damage tokens. Some keywords will happen. This guy's got a when defeated keyword. There are shield tokens. Luke Skywalker gives out shield tokens. You can use him as an action also. And a shield token absorbs all damage, and so that's pretty cool. It's another thing. Let's talk about tokens, for example. The bases are very cool in this game, right? Well, they're not that cool. They're kind of normal. There are some special bases that have special keywords, but for the most part, bases are 30 health. You kind of start with 30 health. That's a way to say that you have 30 health. On the other side of the bases is a token. Since you're not putting them in your deck, you're never shuffling bases into your deck, this is a +1/+1 token. Now, obviously, at some point, you may want to put fancy tokens on your cards, and that's certainly something that people will do. However, this is pretty cool because it allows these cards to double as tokens. There are also bases that double as shield tokens. There we go. We've got one right there. It's a shield token. It's +0/+0. It's just reminding you that if damage would be dealt to the attached unit, prevent that damage. If you do, defeat a shield token on it. You can have more than one shield token too, which is pretty cool. But there's also keywords for that. There are a lot of things that seem very, very strong until you realize that there are counters for it. For example, Luke Skywalker puts shields on somebody. You could have a strong unit out there that has a whole bunch of shield tokens that they could never die, and then you'll realize, wait a second, there's a saboteur keyword. When it attacks, they ignore sentinel, which is that taunt keyword that says you have to attack them, and you can defeat all of the defender's shields, which is kind of a good counter. There's a lot of stuff that has that, which is pretty interesting. There's also great artwork on these cards. It's all new artwork. We're not seeing anything reused from other games. I happen to really love this Corellian freighter because it's a really nice YT model ship, but definitely not ones that we've seen. It's not it's not the Millennium Falcon. It's not the Outrider. It's a different YT, and it's kind of filling that role of a generic ship, but it's actually pretty good because it's got Sentinel, and there's not too many spacefaring vehicles that I've seen so far that happen to have Sentinel, which is pretty cool. Again, there's a good balance you need to have between ground units and space units. If you go too far on one side, you can leave yourself open on the other, and that's kind of the balancing act when playing the game. So on my turn, if I have nothing else to do, I can pass, or I can, if it hasn't been claimed already, I can claim the initiative token, or sometimes former Destiny players will say claim the battlefield. Basically, that means I am going to be done. I won't be doing anything else for the rest of this whole round, but I will be going first next round. Once you do that, it can't be claimed again from you, but you leave yourself open to, if your opponent had other actions they could take, they can do things, they can play cards with impunity. But usually there's a little bit of a race to see who can go first. At the end of a round, you will then draw 2 cards. You don't draw just one each turn, you're going to draw 2 cards. You have the option to commit a card from your hand as another resource, and then you'll untap everything or ready everything. One of the things I like about this is you don't have to commit one of the 2 cards you drew. If you were holding on to something, maybe this card that costs 5, and I realize, you know what, I'm not going to be able to play that. I thought I wanted that card, but he's not putting ground stuff out, so I don't need this, and it's later in the game, and I thought I was going to need this card, and I saved it from my opening hand. I can then say, you know what, I actually don't need it now, and I need the other stuff that I'm drawing, so I'll commit that one instead. And now all of a sudden I got 3 mana, 3 resources rather. I mean, again, that's one of the things I find myself doing a lot of time, using Magic the Gathering terminology like mana and tap. I think a lot of CCG players are going to also do that for quite a while. So then we'll both ready our cards, and then we'll start the next round, and we'll just keep proceeding with play like that until one player's base is defeated. And that's it. And I'll be first player for as long as I have this claimed. Whoever, maybe my opponent wraps up and they play a big, 3-cost card right away, and then they claim the initiative token. So this way, they'll go first next turn. But usually having initiative is nice. There are some cards that will give you a bonus if you have initiative. So there's definitely some bonuses to doing that. There are certain things that I like about this game. There's certain things that I don't. Let's talk about. All right, let's talk about the art. I already talked about the art a little bit, but I like the art. I like the cards design. You have some cards that have larger art. You have some cards that have smaller art. You have some cards that are holographic or foil, if you like to call them that. Which is a very cool thing. You also have some cards that are borderless. We'll pull out this Bright Hope here, for example. So there's all kinds of special rarity. There are also some cards that are alternate art. And between those 3 things being foiled, borderless, and alternate art, you can have combinations of those. So, for example, I did get a Grand Inquisitor leader. He's double-sided. Very cool character. And he is, and by the way, you're also going to have the rarity down here, like R for rare, U for uncommon, C for common, or L for legendary. You can get all of those in any different combination, but like, for example, here is an example of a holographic and borderless. And I think I got 2 of those. So I got this snapshot reflexes and this. So they're not super common to get, to get one that has multiples at once. But there's even more. If you can potentially also get one that has like an alternate art and foiled and and all of that. But I think they're ultra rare to get ones that have all of those together, which I thought was pretty interesting. Another thing that's kind of cool is that if you get a base that is borderless, and I got Chopper base here that's borderless. The cool thing is on the other side, the token it gives you is also happens to be borderless. So I thought that's very, very clever. I like the overall aesthetic of the game. I like most of the card art, but some of it is hit or miss with me. I have a Jabba the Hutt in here that is just awful looking. Let me find him. There he is. So like, I'm not a fan of every single piece of art. I mean, if the artwork is good, I just don't like the style. I don't like the representation of Jabba there. It looks a little weird, a little, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like the way he's represented. But then again, you have like this amazing Iden Versio on the other side. So, there's a lot of really cool artwork in here. Not all of it is going to work for everybody, but some of it's really, really good. I especially like the space artwork as well, because I'm always a big fan of space artwork. But a lot of different stuff. Most of this, the content here, is from the Galactic Civil War time frame. A lot of Star Wars Rebels stuff. A lot of Rogue One stuff. So I like the setting and the timeline. I think that's a smart way to do it. They have a lot of popular characters in there, like Boba Fett, for example, too. So as far as the art is concerned, very cool. Something else I'm not super crazy about with this game is the initial choice of what to commit as lands. Now, this is a mixed aspect of the game, but at the very, very beginning of the game, when you draw your 6 cards, you immediately have to choose 2 cards from your hand, which are going to be resources. Now, this can be very nerve-wracking. Like, what do I want to get rid of? Now, sometimes it's an obvious choice. Hey, these 2 5s, I'm not going to be able to play those for a while anyway. Let me put those down. Or I put something that was, just, a situational, and based on the commander that they have, I'm not going to need it. Okay, I'll put that face down. And that part is really good. That's actually a plus for the game. But I don't like having to make that choice on the first turn. I would have rathered that, like, the first turn of the game, I get to make a fun choice. Like, I pick 2 cards that I'm going to be able to play for free in 3 rounds, or something like that. And so I'm like, ooh, what do I want? What kind of bonus am I going to get? In this case, you have to lose 2, so it almost feels like a bad thing at the very beginning. And then after that, every round you're choosing what card you want to put down, or if you don't have to. And I find that usually by turn 6 or 7, players begin to stop putting cards down, because usually you don't need more than 6 or 7 resource. For most situations, the game usually seems to be winding down by those turns. So the fact that you can draw 2 cards, while it's a plus and it's a good thing, the only bad part is, like, the game kind of starts with a potentially angsty decision, and that is a little bit of a bad thing, although I can see why it's there, and it's probably for the greater good, but it is kind of it starts out with a little bit of a bummer. On that same note, though, I do like the aspect of being, the part of the game that says, hey, you know what? I don't have to use this card right now. I can put it down as a resource. For example, here's a good example. I ran Luke and Kestro City yesterday for our little tournament. I put this Viper probe droid in the deck. He is a 2 cost with 1 black. So he would cost me 4 out of aspect, because I do not have black here. 4 isn't too bad of a cost for out of aspect. It's certainly better than some cards that could cost up to 12, like we looked at before. 4 is definitely playable. He's a 3/2, but when I play him, I can look at an opponent's hand. Now, my collars don't have anything that lets me see what's in my opponent's hand, and they're, for all I know, I might need to know if they can counter something that I have to play the following turn. So I thought, hey, that's worth it to go ahead and include this. I'll have to pay 4 instead of just 2, but it might be worth it for an out of aspect card. And if it turns out that by the time I could play this, they have no cards left in hand or whatever, then I have a very easy choice where I can just turn this into another resource, and then then maybe makes my decision easy. And so I like the aspect situation. I like the deck building rules. And deck building rules are basically 3 of any card. tops, and you can have anything you want in there. It's better to have stuff that's on aspect, that's aligned with your current aspect, but you can put whatever you want. I can put Viper droids in there, which I thought is really cool. So again, if you're running dark side, you can put some light side stuff. If I want to run Luke Skywalker and have him force choke somebody with a dark side force choke card, I can totally do that. You got like force throw here, which is also pretty cool. It's, although it's not dark side, it's red. Which can go, I think that's called aggression. But so I like the deck building rules. That much is pretty fun. As far as the flow of the game, I do like the flow and the layout and the action thing. So I played this guy's last turn. I'm going to attack the base. I don't want to attack here because you've got Sentinel up, but I do that. I get some damage on you. Then it's your turn. Then you get to do something. You can attack this guy, so he hasn't gone yet. Maybe he takes some damage. Maybe he doesn't quite kill either one of them, but now there's damage. Maybe you're going to play a card from your hand next. And usually by turn 7 or 8, the game is just about over. So that's very cool. It's got the back and forth aspect, keeps both players involved pretty quickly. I do find that as time goes out, if you're putting more of your cards down for aspect, you're having more mana or more resource to spend. You're spending more of those cards in your hand much more quickly, so you end up running out of cards in hand. If your deck runs out, if you have a lot of draw cards or whatever, and your deck ends up running out of cards, every time you need to draw, you're going to take 3 damage to your base. In the games last night, I didn't see that as really happening, but as the meta develops, maybe that will become more of a playstyle, or as future expansions come out, that might become also more of a playstyle. There are definitely some more expensive cards that can do really cool things, and so all in all, I like the initial card layout and design. While it's mostly Galactic Civil War, there are a few callbacks to the Clone Wars, and there are some art on this that reference the Clone Wars, and we've got a lot of just kind of stuff from the far reaches that aren't as super as common too, which is a very cool thing. And there's also legendary cards. I only got one, and it's a Change of Heart that kind of lets you take control of somebody else, and then you give it back to them at the end of the turn, which can be like a very, very swingy card. This is a lot of really cool functionality. There's a lot of cool things to discover, and it's a new game, which is also very exciting. Now, one thing I'm not as crazy about, based on at least first impressions, is the number of cards that you get in a booster pack that are not unit cards. It seems to me, based on, again, only based on first impressions, I played probably about like 7 or 8 games yesterday. Got a lot of, no, I think 9 games. I think I played about 9 games yesterday. From my experience, having more units out there, you want space units, ground units, having more units out there is the best. Having a lot of cards in your hand that are either upgrades or tactics or force or abilities, things that can do things, are okay, but they're not as good as having a unit out there. And so, especially when there's a unit that does something when they come into play, which I think is one of the best things. Like, for example, like this Snow Speeder, for example, is a really good unit. You get to come in, it comes into play, it gets to attack, or it gets to ready itself. And it also, when it attacks, it gets to exhaust an enemy ground unit. So it's doing like 3 things, which is really, really good. And since you have units like that, it's better to kind of fill up the board, because then they can continue to attack every round. Also, they force your opponent to have to deal with them, whereas these cards are kind of one and done. So I feel like for deck construction, I'm heavily incentivized to go mostly units and only a little sprinkling of other non-unit cards, especially when they're force multipliers. But there are a lot of cards that don't line up to that philosophy. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see if these end up being more valuable, or if these are kind of meant to be the commons that are undesirable, because not every card is going to be great. Not every card is going to work for all circumstances, but I feel like the balance is should have been a little more towards vehicles if they were going to be that strong, or vehicles and ground unit, or space units, ground units, and just units overall should have been a little bit stronger. So that's a little bit of a negative, but not really a huge thing. I feel like they're saying, hey, it's an excuse to buy more boosters, which is another thing that's maybe not the greatest about this game, is that it is a booster game. You're going to be getting random boosters. You're going to open up these boosters, and every booster is going to come with a location. Every booster is going to come with a leader. So you're going to have at least one leader in each one location in every booster. And then you're going to get at least one holographic or foiled card in every one. So it might just be a basic foil like this, or it might be one of the fancier ones. And so it goes kind of up from there. So that's going to be a big problem for a lot of people, and that it's not, you don't just buy X and then go. However, It's up to you how much, I think you can still get a playable deck. And if you want to play casually with people, there's a multiplayer format that uses only one of any given card. So it seems like it'll be less meta heavy, less competitive. And that might be the format for you. Now let's talk about leaders, because this is one of the coolest things, and this is a big plus for me, is that your leader is giving you an action, something that you can do. So in this case, Luke Skywalker, you can pay 1 and tap him to put a shield token on a light side unit that you've played this phase. There are different types of abilities. Darth Vader, for example, if you played an Imperial card or a Dark Side card this phase, you can deal damage to 1 unit and a damage to a base. And every leader has something, but some of them have requirements and pay, whereas you have like Sabine, who's just deal a damage to each base, and there's plenty more units for you to discover, plenty more leaders, I should say, but on top of that, you have the epic actions, and every leader has an epic action. Now this is a really cool thing. The epic actions will all have a different requirement. I have to have 6 or more resources. Darth Vader is 7 or more resources. Sabine is a little bit maybe less overpowered. She owns only 4 resources to do that. You don't have to spend the resources. You just have to have them. So the idea is on that 6th turn with Luke Skywalker, I've got my 6 resources out, or maybe on that 5th turn, I should say. I've got my 6 resources out. I do all my actions. My opponent claims maybe they claim or they pass or something like that. And I'm like, well then I'm going to do my epic action now. Boom, he flips over. Boom, he comes into play, and he's strong. He's a 4/7, and when he attacks, he can give another unit a shield token, which is awesome. He comes into play. He's ready to do stuff. And now this is a once per game ability. I can only flip him over, throw him into play once per game. And the cool thing about it is when you do the epic action to flip your leader over, they come into play untapped, so you get to attack with them not right away, but on your next action. So if your opponent's already claimed, then you can attack with them right away, which is really cool. I has 4 extra damage on your base, or maybe I kill off a unit or something like that. Darth Vader is a 5/8. He's really strong, and when he attacks, he can deal 2 damage to a unit. So there's all kinds of different things. Sabine, when she attacks, she can deal damage to each enemy base. She'd be very good in multiplayer because there'd be lots of enemy bases for her to hit, for her to do damage to. So very cool stuff. If he is defeated, he goes back to being your leader like this, and you put a little X token over his epic action, indicating that you can't use it anymore. Cool thing about this is even if you lose the game, maybe you get to do something cool with your leader. You always have this epic action that you can do. You just have to have the resources out. You don't have to spend them. So you could have spent them on other things. As long as they're on the board, you can do this as an action, which is a very fun thing. So that's Star Wars Unlimited. I had a good time playing, and I'm gonna have to wait and see what the future does for the game. But ultimately, my big things that I like about it are, I like that you can't get land screwed, or basically you can't get screwed over with your cards, and that you don't have any resources or landlocked or whatever they would call it in other games. So I like that they've addressed that. I like that it's got multiplayer built in from the ground up. I haven't played multiplayer yet, but I'm eager to do so. I think that might be the way to go, because I feel like with competitive metas, and CCGs are very at risk of becoming toxic with how the level of competition and meta chasing that exists, it's much easier to play a Commander similar multiplayer format that they seem to have, and that's supported from the ground up with a game like this. So that's also another good thing. Plus, it's Star Wars, has great artwork. It's not perfect for me, but it's pretty good, and runs the risk of being a little bit of a money sink if you want it to be. Some people don't have as much self-control with these. I plan to get a booster box and then kind of stop there, and then we'll see how that goes. There's also the fact that this is another card game by Fantasy Flight Games, and a lot of folks aren't going to be sure about that. My take is this. I didn't play the LCG, but I did play Star Wars Destiny, and I had a great time with Star Wars Destiny for a while. At a certain point, it became less fun for me. I stopped playing before they discontinued it, but I think even if they're going to discontinue a game, I've played games that have kind of gone on hold. I've played Imperial Assault, X-Wing, Star Wars Armada, like a lot of games like that have, some of them are still in print and being supported, but they're not necessarily getting all the the level of support that people want. So I recognize that can happen for a game, but I think I am more interested in focusing on the launch experience. Like, a game like this is really fun when it's brand new, before everybody figures out the broken combos, and then you go to play at a tournament and you don't get a single win because, you know, you weren't in the meta or anything like that. Or maybe you want to be a little more competitive. I know out of everybody we played with last night, people were very, very cool, very friendly, and it was a good time. So it's nice to, you know, be on board in a game when it's brand new. It's exciting. I'm sure there'll be an expansion that gets announced in the next month or two of whatever the next set is going to be, and then we'll have other things to look forward to. And at a certain point, it's a little worrisome to me that it's possible that you'll get certain card combos that are broken, or another set comes out and they say, oh, all these cards are no longer legal because this other set came out and stuff like that. So that's just pitfalls of collectible card games in general. This one just does a lot of things right, and it feels good. It's got a simple rule set. It's very, very simple to play, but it has some complexity as you get into it. And with the back and forth and the lessons learned from Destiny, and the fact that there's no dice, so it means actually storing and transporting your stuff is great. I guess my only other complaint that I didn't talk about the game is these little really thin tokens that they give you. These tokens it's nice that there is an option for them, but they're not very good. So that's my only other complaint. Overall, the complaints are pretty minimal, and the good parts are pretty significant. The biggest problem is going to be that it's a FFG game, and so some folks are going to worry about that. And that it's a collectible card game, and some folks are going to be deterred by that as well. But if you don't mind just jumping in for the fun while it's here, I think you'll have a really good time with it, and I'm looking forward to playing more. Because it plays quick also, so it's a fun time. I had a great time playing at the pre-release event. We do have another pre-release kit that we're going to do an unboxing of, and you can get to see what it's like to open some boosters and go through all of that. So that'll be coming up in the next couple of days. Stay tuned for that. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much, and big thanks to my patrons. I couldn't do this without the support of Patreon, and thank you guys so much. You guys have been there for a long time. And we have some foil cards in here we're going to give away on Patreon as well. So that's going to happen. So I want to thank you guys again. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. The spice must flow. And always wash your socks. See ya.